class, this is Miss Payne, and I'm going to be leading you in a video about comparing decimal numbers. So if you could go ahead and turn to your table of contents and write in there comparing decimal numbers, and then just turn to your next blank page and we'll get started. Okay? Okay, so if you can remember from yesterday, we actually talked about decimals and place value. So this is what we put in our journal, and we talked about how where the decimal is, as it goes to the left, the numbers are getting bigger, and as it goes to the right, the numbers are getting smaller. So you can see that we have the ones, the tens, and the hundreds, and then on the other side of the decimal they get smaller, and we have the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousandths. So what we're going to do today is talk about how we can compare two decimal numbers to see which one is bigger. Go ahead now, if you haven't already, at the very top of your page you're going to write comparing decimals. So please do that now. If you need to pause, go ahead and pause. Alright, it's very important that you listen to the entire video or you will be very confused. So please don't skip ahead or miss certain parts because it's going to be very hard for you to understand what's going on moving forward. So please write comparing decimals if you haven't already. What I'm going to have you do is you're going to go ahead and write down this example here. Sorry, I don't want you to see because I want to talk about it. Okay, so we have, when comparing decimals, we have to look at place value. Okay, so please write that down and then write down these two numbers, 9.34 and 9.35. When you read a decimal number, you start with the ones. If you have tens or hundreds, you start with those, but right now we just have 9, so it reads 9 and 34 hundredths, and over here we have 9 and 35 hundredths, okay? So write those two numbers down, and what we're going to be doing is comparing them to see which one is larger. Now right off the bat you can tell that they both have a 9 in the ones, they both have a 3 in the tenths, but they both have different numbers in the hundredths. This has a 4 and this has a 5. We know by counting that 4 is greater than 5, so we can say that 9.34 or 9 and 34 hundredths is actually less than 9 and 35 hundredths. Sorry about my little typo under there. 9 and 34 hundredths is less than 9 and 35, and we know that because even though these two numbers are the same, the 4 in the hundredths place is less than the 5 in the hundredths place. So we put a less than sign. Alright, go ahead and pause right now and make sure you get this put into your journal. Alright, when you're ready, we're going to move on. So I just want you to write this real quick, that they both have a 9 in the ones. Please write that. Pause if you need to. They both have a 3 in the tenths with a THS. Pause right now. And then lastly, but the 5 in the hundredths place is bigger than the 4 here in the tenths place. So please get that copied into your journals and then play it again when you're ready. Alright, next I want you to write down these two numbers. Oh, don't look, I'm trying to surprise you. Okay, so write down these two numbers. We have 4 and 207 thousandths. We read it as thousandths because the last digit is actually in the thousandths place. This number is 4 and 8 tenths. Okay, and you'll see why I added these imaginary zeros on in a minute. So we have 4 and 207 thousandths and 4 and 8 tenths. Now what we're going to do is we're going to compare them. It's easy at first to say, well, this one looks bigger, so this one must be the bigger number. But what we're going to do first is start from left and go all the way to the right. So let's start with our ones place. We see that they both have a 4, so we can just move on from there. We don't need to check those. Next, we look at our tenths place. So we see here that we have a 2 and we have an 8. Well, which one's bigger? We know that the 8 is larger, So this number is actually larger than 4 and 207 thousandths. Now what we can do, just to match the number of digits there are, is we can add 2 extra zeros. Now we can say, well, 207 is actually smaller than 800. And we can see right away which one's larger. Remember, what we did is we compared the ones first and then the tens, and we saw that this one was larger. Okay, so go ahead and draw your greater than sign. All right. Now we're going to do another practice problem. So let's scoot this up. Oh, first we need to write this down. They both have a 4 in the ones. Go ahead and write that. But the 8 in the tenths is larger than the 2. Please write that down. Once you have it written down, now we're going to do our example. So write number 1, 35 and 71 hundredths. We're going to figure out if it's greater than, less than, or equal to 35 and 601 thousandths. Again, we read this as hundredths because the last digit's in the hundredths place. And we read this one as thousandths because the last digit is in the thousandths place. So let's go ahead and decide which one's larger. Again, it's easy for us to look at the number of digits, and first of all, this one looks like it could be larger, but we have to compare the numbers. So let's start at the tens place. They both have a 3, so we can move on from there. They both have a 5, but then when we go to the tenths place, we see that this 7 is larger than this 6. So we automatically know that this one is going to be larger. Okay, so go ahead and write that in there. I want you to try to do this next one on your own. So go ahead and pause it right now and see if you can solve it. Okay, you should have solved it by now. Now we're going to take a look and see if you got it right. So you can see that they both have a 2. They both have a 5. But in the hundredths place, we see that this 3 right here is larger than this 0. So we know that this number, 2 and 532 thousandths, is greater than 2 and 504 thousandths. Okay. Go ahead and pause just if you need to take a look, and rewind it if you want to watch and listen again. All right, I want you to try to do this next one. 28 and 7 tenths and 28 and 382 thousandths. Go ahead and pause right now and try to do it on your own. Okay, you should have paused it by now. I really hope you're trying to do these and not just waiting, because you're building up that brain. So let's take a look at it. We see that they both have 28s here, but when we look at the tenths place, we see we have a 7 and we have a 3. Again, if we want to, we can add on those imaginary zeros, and we see that the 700 is larger than the 382, so we're going to mark that one. Lastly, I want you to try and solve this one. 15 and 30 hundredths, or you can cover up the 0 and read it as 15 and 3 tenths. Is it greater or less than this number over here? Go ahead and try to solve right now. Some of you may have caught this and some of you may not. We see that the 15 and the 15 are the same. We see that they both have a 3 in the tenths place. But what about this 0? Is it really a 30? What we can do is add an imaginary 0, and we see that they in fact are actually the same. So they're the same number, so I want you to put an equal sign. So I hope you know a little bit more about comparing decimals now, and you're able to see which ones are larger and which ones are smaller. Hold on just a moment, I have a special surprise. She's kind of wiggly, but I wanted you to say hello to Winnie. She's glad to see you, and she wants to get out of my lap. So I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.